Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am the fabled librarian. And today we're going over things to do with Roman mythology, or in general, just Roman background. It's a little of both. So, I mentioned in another video, I can't remember which one, that I was in Latin class for a long time. I took 4 years of Latin in high school, and then I took a couple years in college. You know, it was something I really enjoyed, although now I wish I would have taken an actual language, because I realize it's much harder to learn now than it would have been when I was a teenager or in my early years, in my 20s. But, you know, we cannot go back in time. But it's going to be, I think I'll start with the Roman mythology tale. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today too is, since I'm mentioning my high school days, the things we put to song, or the things we're forced to remember and recite in high school or in our school days. Do you have any of those songs or speeches that you had to remember and recite for grades? I actually really enjoyed those because a lot of it, I enjoyed this, doing this, and so a lot of it was very similar. You're putting things out and performing them. Although I'm not really much for performing in specific audiences where I can see everybody. That would make me very nervous. Very nervous. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it would. But the first Roman tale, I actually always remember because of a song we had to learn in Latin class. And I don't remember, I don't know where, I kind of feel like my Latin teacher made this up, but I'm not really sure. And this was a long time ago. So, searching online was not as a big thing. So I feel like I'm not sure where she got it at the moment. But this tale had to do with Ceres the Goddess. Some of you might know this. I don't know. I don't feel like this is as much of a common tale. Ceres the Goddess was the deity of, food like grains, in the harvest. So I think her Greek counterpart was Demeter. But Ceres had a daughter named Persephone, or, I think I'm wrong on that. That Persephone was Demeter's daughter, so that was the Greek version. Proserpine was the Roman one, so Ceres' daughter was Proserpine. And she was the daughter of Jupiter. So Ceres and Jupiter were Proserpine's parents. And one day, Ceres loved her daughter. She loved her so much. And she never wanted her to leave. Ceres was the goddess of grain and food in general, so like the harvest. And she was responsible for everything growing. She was one of those goddesses who was very interested in the lives of humans, because it was so ingrained in her to grow things that the humans would need, food. But that will be important to this tale later to know. So she was really important to mortals, and she was one of the closer gods to them. So she became very upset one day when Proserpine had disappeared. And she looked everywhere for her. She had no idea where she went. No idea. And Jupiter, he's not the best dude. If we remember from Greek mythology, his counterpart Zeus, not good. So Jupiter just kind of did what he wanted. He clearly was with a lot of different women. So he didn't respect them all that much. So he decided that, unbeknownst to Ceres, Jupiter let Pluto, the god of the underworld, have Proserpina, because he happened to be around one day and followed Proserpina and fell in love with her beauty. So of course, what does he do? He takes her. Because, Jupiter said it was okay. So he takes her one day. Ceres had no idea. And he takes her to the underworld. So he eventually fed something to Proserpina, which made her not be able to leave the underworld. But Ceres desperately wanted to see her daughter. And because she was so sad, remember what she's the goddess of. She's the goddess of grain and the harvest and plants, and everything in her sadness started to die. This wasn't good, right? This was not good. So eventually, she was so upset, and they decided to strike a deal. So for so many months of the year, Proserpine got to go up from the underworld and live with her mother. And during the other months, she would live in the underworld. And this became the seasons. So this tale about Ceres the goddess and Proserpine and Pluto describes is the reasoning behind why there are different seasons. So during the winter months, that's when Proserpina is with Pluto, right? She's with Pluto, and that is when Ceres is very sad because she loves and misses her daughter. But during the time that she's with Ceres, everything is in bloom, is in full bloom, and because Ceres is happy. She has her daughter back. So when we go back and look at why we have myths, just like with the Greek tales I've already told, although if you haven't listened to those, make sure you go back and take a look at my channel. I have more. I've told a couple Greek tales, but they always are looking to explain why things are happening. So it's a mother's sadness that is causing the winter to happen, and the spring and the summer, that is when Ceres is happy and everything is in full bloom and there's plenty of food to go around. So that's always a fun one. But it's funny because the main reason I remember this tale is because of a song my teacher used to sing, and it was like, Ceres the goddess was the deity of food. She could make things grow, people loved her so, for they thought that she was good. One day her daughter, named Proserpine, was gone. Ceres looked here and there, she looked everywhere, but the girl could not be found. At last she found her, underneath with Pluto, God. She said, give my daughter back, and the deal was struck. And for some reason, I can't remember the exact wording of the song past that point, but it went on to describe that the 6 months of the season, she's with Pluto, 6 months of the year, she is with Ceres. But it's funny because the main reason I remember that tale is because of that song. So going back to what I was originally talking about the things we learn in school when we're young really sticks with us. And that, I've talked about brain development before, but that's why some of the things that we learn as a very young person or in our early years stick with us, because those memories help kind of get ingrained in there, especially when we're putting them to to song. I remember a ton of things better from that point that I probably couldn't remember now. But there is something to be said about putting things to music to help us remember and feel good about different things going on in our life. There's a whole lot of different things, but anything that we create an association with is going to help us remember, especially when we remember it when we're younger. Yeah, that's why we kind of learn those things and have to memorize stuff when we're in school, because it makes it easier to remember. So, going on to another, this is more of, I guess, from the play Julius Caesar in Shakespeare. I had to remember and recite Mark Antony's speech. Now I'm going to try to say it as well as I can from memory, because I didn't want to look it up. I really wanted to see what I remember. And I had to learn this in 10th grade, and I still remember it. Okay. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it was true, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men. Come I to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? And when that the poor hath cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, and not without cause. What cause withhold you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. I hope I did that right. I do think I slipped up a little bit on the order of things, but I could be wrong. I'm going to have to go back now and read it to see how accurate that was, because I haven't really looked at it again. I kind of do it from memory. That was one of the things that I had to memorize and say out loud for credit. I think she did, if you didn't want to say it out loud to the students, she did allow people to do it on their own, like just in front of her. So the last one I had to memorize, that I still to this day remember, is Caesar's, a couple of lines from his Gallic Wars. And, you know, it was one of those things that we had to translate and then say it out loud too. So it was only a couple lines. It was like kind of the first lines, I think. So it was Gallia est omnes divisa in partes tres, unum partem inclunt Belgae, equitani alium partem et Galli tertium inclunt, Galli se Celtas abelant, Romani autem, eos Gallos abelant, qui omnes lingua institutis legibus inter se different. So it was talking about how Gaul was divided into 3 parts. So, you know, it was one of those things that Julius Caesar wrote. And it was his commentary on the whole thing. So, just some thought for that, but I had to memorize that in I think my Latin 2 class. So, and it, as far as I could remember, because my sister had to memorize it too, as well. So it was just one of those things, and for some reason, that was when I was probably, again, in 10th grade, and I still remember. I'm not sure if I remember too many things to that extent anymore. And it's also, I've noticed that, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, with movies. I remember phrases from movies much better from when I was younger. Like, things stick out to me better than I do now. I'll just pull out phrases from movies from like 10, 15 years ago that I wouldn't necessarily do now. But I also don't watch as many movies anymore, so that might be why. Anyway, so let me know in the comments, are there any things that you had to memorize from school that you remember to this day? Was it music that it was put to? Was it just text that you had to memorize and say out loud? What was it? What did they drill into your head? And do you feel like it was worth knowing today? That's really the question. I personally like the fact that I can pull those things out of my head. Makes me feel like I have a good memory sometimes when I don't. But let me know in the comments. And remember, please, to like and subscribe. Thank you